3. Shuttle Ride. Striding across the grass, coat flapping in the breeze of the ship's engines, he bellowed, "Come on then, let's see the old girl." A moment later the shuttle decloaked, revealing a sleek-looking craft about the length of a bus. Once shiny and new, this ship had seen it all, but looked like you could bet your life on her. Dad grinned a wide and emotional grin, like he'd been reunited with a long-lost family member or a childhood pet that he hadn't seen in years. He walked up to the front of the ship and put a hand on the hull, resting his head on the cold metal. Eyes closed, he said something that only he and the ship will ever know, before heading to the rear and entering through the double doors into the cargo area. "All right, Captain Tom, let's get off this little blue rock," he boomed through the ship's comm system before hitting the closed doors button. "Roger that, Captain," came the reply through the tinny speakers, and Dad headed to the bridge. Every step through his old ship, one part of his home for many years, brought back memories, triggering smiles and emotions. His leather fingerless gloved hand brushed against the scuffed metal interior of his beloved vessel. As he stepped onto the bridge, he looked around slowly, studying every inch. "Just how I left it," he said under his breath. Tom looked round from the pilot's control console and nodded. "Welcome aboard, Captain," he said with genuine warmth in his voice. "I never thought I'd be back on this beautiful heap of nuts and bolts. You've done me a great kindness, Tom, my boy. A great kindness, to be sure." Tom smiled gently. "Shall we get back to the main ship?" he said. Dad plonked himself down at the console next to Tom's pilot chair. "Aye, aye, Captain. Can't wait," he said with an excited grin on his face. Main ship? Hang on, I thought that this was Dad's old ship. No, wait, this is just a shuttle. What, to get back to the main ship? Okay, and I thought that this thing was cool enough. Right, I know what you're thinking. How can I have known all of this stuff, what they said to each other, how it all went, if I was still tucked up in bed waiting to be picked up by my mum? Well, all will be revealed soon enough. The shuttle had just broken through the Earth's atmosphere when the monitor in front of Dad started making a noise. "What is it?" asked Tom. "Give me a second. It's been a while since I..." But Dad didn't finish his sentence, too busy trying to recall the controls that he once knew so instinctively. "Aha!" he exclaimed. "That's the fella." He turned to Tom, a concerned look creeping across his face. "Got any boomsticks on board?" he asked. Tom reached behind his back and pulled the blaster pistol from his belt. He passed it to Dad without taking his eyes off the windscreen. "Need a hand?" he asked. "Nah," came Dad's reply. "I may be a couple of decades out of practice, but it doesn't look like anything I can't handle." He hopped out of the chair and walked away from the monitor displaying a third life form detected somewhere in the cargo area. This being a small ship, it was only a matter of moments before Dad was stood studying every inch of the rear section of the shuttle, pistol primed and ready. His lopsided stomp echoed through the space, bouncing off the metal walls and floor before he came to a halt by a section of the wall. As if it were the most natural thing in the world, he gently pushed on the corner of what looked like an innocent panel, prompting it to pop away from the rest of the wall. Then a super-fast swing of the secret door was followed by the pistol being shoved right in my face. "Oscar!" yelled Dad, flicking the safety on and sliding the gun into the pocket of his coat. Hi, Dad," I said timidly. "What in the name of the darkest armpits of the verse are you doing on my ship?" I couldn't tell if he was genuinely angry or just really, really shocked. I heard what you and Tom were talking about and decided to come with you, give you a hand." Dad drew breath to deliver some ranty speech and then stopped, a sudden realization replacing the anger. "Oh no, your mum's gonna kill me." At that second, Tom came through the door, a peculiar-looking rifle at his shoulder. "Captain, what's going..." "Oh." He lowered the gun and silently looked to Dad. Dad thought for a second, everything swirling around in his head, weighing up his options before saying, "Oscar, this is Tom. Tom, this is my stowaway son, Oscar." "Your son?" replied Tom, amazed. Yeah, we needs to turn round, drop him back home. My God, his mother is going to have a fit. But you said that time is of the essence, Dad, I protested. We need to save your home planet, which I guess is half my home planet. Wait a second. Yes, said Dad in a resigned tone. I looked at him. What do you mean, yes? Yes is the answer to your question, he said. How do you know what I was going to... But he interrupted. You're an alien, not from Earth, or at least half of you ain't. The me side, he said, pointing to himself. But he didn't let me ask further questions, instead turning back to Tom. How's the signal in these parts? Patchy, but you should be able to get a message through. The mother? He asked. Dad nodded, as if all of the energy and joy for his latest adventure had been squashed out of him. Then he gestured to me, without making eye contact. Come on then, Spud, one of his many nicknames for me. Let's be having you out of that there hole. I'd best be giving you the tour. Tom went back to the bridge while Dad showed me around. Every little nook and cranny had a story or fond memory to go with it. The dent in the rear doors from the time that a rogue slunk it teleported into the shuttle and tried to fight its way out. The blast marks on the walkway to the bridge from a fierce blaster fight with Flork resistance fighters, and the crazy huge number of stickers that covered the nav console. And yet, Dad's old pilot was obsessed, collecting souvenirs from every spaceport, new planet and dusty moon that they had visited. Dad managed to connect his phone to the comm system. Texting Mum, he said that I'd hitched a ride without him knowing and that we'd be back in a few days, a week at most. Dad didn't show me the reply, but it was obvious that Mum wasn't happy. If Dad's made-up impromptu trip to the south coast made her cross, imagine if she knew where we were actually headed. I was sat in a chair at the side, gawking out of the main window at the amazing view of the moon when Dad said, "Think that's beautiful? You just wait." I didn't ask what he meant. I knew that he wouldn't spoil the surprise by telling me anyway. We flew into the moon's orbit and circled it until we reached the dark side. Dad smiled as I tried to pick out the glints of light coming from something out there in the black. "Captain Tom, would you do the honours, please?" Tom smiled as he flicked a switch, and a number of powerful lights illuminated the body hovering just above the moon's surface. And suddenly, there it was. Dad's old ship, the Nighthawk. And it was awesome.